I really thank Sinn Féin for introducing this private member's motion on services for children with disabilities, and particularly Deputy Tully. Last year, I put a question in just the end of last year to the HSE, and I got a very detailed 6-page reply on the CDNT, SOP, preliminary team assessments, resources, etc. And it was quite, as I said, it was a 6-page reply. According to that, all our problems were solved, according to the reply here. They went on to say that the SOP, the standard operating procedure for the assessment of need process to ensure children with disabilities and their families access appropriate assessment and intervention as quickly as possible, that the approach to assessment of need is consistent across all areas, breaks down what the primary team assessment is as a guideline, and it talked about setting up the 91 CDNTs. The clinicians were being brought back from their reassigned COVID-19 roles. Overtime has been given. All this has been done to deal with the SOP, the standard operating procedure. And also went on to give details of what the team was going to be made up of, and that they were all going to be set up and running by the end of 2021. Now we know the reality for parents. We always knew the reality for parents because we're dealing with them every day of the week. It's totally different. We know from the Joint Committee last week not one of the CDNTs is fully staffed, and an average vacancy rate of about 25% across the teams. Professor Malcolm McLaughlin, clinical lead for people with disabilities, said some of the CDNTs are only staffed to around 50%. The CDNT on Armagh Road in my area, in Dublin 12, has 11.7 whole-time equivalent. That's what they need. When that question went in at the beginning of March, there was 8.8 staff. They'd just recruited 2, and the 2 left within a matter of 2 weeks. That was for OT and physio. In Brookaveen, also my constituency, there are 9 vacancies. Families are extremely frustrated, and children are open to develop secondary disabilities the longer that they're on waiting lists. The new Our Lady of Hope Special School has no on-site therapists, and this again is scandalous as it leaves teachers, SNAs and children in very difficult situations. The CHO7, I think, is at 60% capacity that it should be. So all across the board, and this just didn't happen today or tomorrow, it happened when you were putting questions in, Minister, as opposition TD in the last Dáil, the same thing. Now, just very quickly, I had one particular parent who went through the procedure, has the SON, she put a complaint in because her son was still waiting. They have absolutely no support for their son, and they were advised what the parent can do. But she's absolutely no support. And the reply that came back was fairly simple. The staff isn't there, and your son's going to have to wait until we get staff in the next period of time. Very demoralising for the parent. What to say, the recruitment continues to be a major issue, and what all the teams are doing, everything possible, which I know they are. In light of this, I'm closing your complaint, and I'm recommendation that CDN3 continue to engage with you in relation to your child, and that clinical appropriate interventions and therapies commence when the appropriate clinicians are on board and your son or your child is reached on the waiting list. Now, these families were given a great buzz about the fact that things were changing. They were going to get their assessment needs, they were going to get their access to therapy, and it's just been smacked in their face again. And I think that's the terrible outcome of this. And exactly, you know, the court case is just damning. I want to just read out a few points in my last minute and what the judge said. The judge made a ruling in 2 test actions brought on behalf of minor children who in judicial review proceedings against the HSE sought to quash reports compiled after they underwent SOPs. The children, they wanted their assessments quashed on the grounds that they did not comply with the requirements of the 2005 Act. The SOP findings did not amount to a proper diagnosis or assessment of their needs, which amounted to a breach of their rights. It was further argued. In her decision, the judge said that in order to comply with the time requirements of the 2005 Disability Act, the HSE developed SOPs, which was implemented from January 2020. The SOP, she said, provides for preliminary or triage type assessment instead of the full assessments which had previously been carried out. And she said the SOP came about because in a significant number of cases the statutory time period fixed for completing the assessments and needs was not respected, and this in turn led to delays in completing assessments and associated litigation. Minister, it's a damning judgment from the judge on the HSE, and I really would like to know exactly how that affects the 10,000 children that were on that stop.